Premanande Haribo. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Narayanam Namaskritya Naram Chaiva Narottamam Devim Saraswatim Vyasam Tato Jayam Udiraye. Today we're reading from Srimad Bhagavatam. Canto 7. Chapter 13. Text number 32. Pashyami dhaninam klesham lubdhanam ajitatmanam bhayad alabda nidranam sarvato bhivishankinam. Pashyami dhaninam klesham Lubdanam ajitatmanam bhayadalabda nidranam sarvato bhivishankinam. I'll say the word for word and then we'll come back. Pashyami. I can practically see. Dhananam. Of persons who are very rich. Klesham, the miseries. Lubdanam, who are extremely greedy. Ajita atmanam, who are victims of their senses. Bhayat, because of fear. Alabda nidranam, who are suffering from insomnia. Sarvata, from all sides. Abhishankinam, being particularly afraid. Pashyami dandinam klesham Lubdanam ajitatmanam Payad alabda nidranam Sarvato pi vishankinam. Dozo. Yes, go ahead.
Pashyami dhaninam klesham
Pashyami dhaninam klesham Lubdanam ajitatmanam Payadalabda nidranam Sarvato bhivishankinam.
Pashyami dhaninam klesham Dhanam ajitatmanam
Lubdanam ajitatmanam
Ayadalabdha nidranam Sarvato bhivishankinam.
Vaishnavis. Pashyami dhaninam klesham Lubdanam ajitatmanam Ayadalabdha nidranam Sarvato bhivishankinam. Pashyami dhaninam klesham Lubdanam ajitatmanam Majitatmanam
Mayalabdhanidranam Sarvato Vivishankinam.
Okay, translation. The Brahmana continued, I am actually seeing how a rich man, who is a victim of his senses, is very greedy to accumulate. Their minds are always agitated. Thus they are unable to sleep at night, and they have to take pills for mental tranquility to invite sleep. Some noise. And sometimes even the pills are a failure. Consequently, the result of having accumulated money by so much labor is certainly not happiness, but only distress. What is the value of acquiring a comfortable position if one's mind is always disturbed? Narottam Das Thakur has therefore sung, Shankshara Bish Shanale Vimanishi Hirjale Judaite na Kainu Upai. I am suffering from the poisonous effect of material enjoyment. Thus my heart is always burning and is almost on the verge of failure. The result of the greedy capitalist's unnecessary accumulation of wealth is that he must suffer from a blazing fire of anxiety and always be concerned with how to save his money and invest it properly to get more and more. Such a life is certainly not very happy, but because of the spell of the illusory energy, materialistic persons engage in such activities. As far as our Krishna consciousness movement is concerned, we are getting money naturally by the grace of God by selling our literature. This literature is not sold for our sense gratification. To spread the Krishna consciousness movement, we need so many things, and Krishna is therefore supplying us the requisite money to advance his mission. The mission of Krishna is to spread Krishna consciousness all over the world, and for this purpose we naturally must have sufficient money. Therefore, according to the advice of Srila Rupa Goswami Prabhupada, we should not give up attachment to money that can spread the Krishna consciousness movement. Srila Rupa Goswami says in his Bhakti Rasamrita Sindhu 1.2.256, Prapanch kataya bhudya hari sambandhi vastuna Mukshabhi prityago vairagyam phalgukatyate. When persons eager to achieve liberation renounce things which are related to the Supreme Personality of Godhead, though they are material, this is called incomplete renunciation. Money that can help in spreading the Krishna consciousness movement is not a part of the material world, and we should not give it up, thinking that it is material. Srila Goswami advises, Anasaktasya vishayan yatarham upayunjata yataryam upayunjata nirbandha Krishna sambandhe yuktam vairagyam uchyate. When one is not attached to anything, but at the same time accepts everything in relation to Krishna, one is rightly situated above possessiveness. Bhakti Rasamrita Sindhu 1.2.255. Money is undoubtedly coming in great quantities, but we should not be attached to this money for sense gratification. Every cent should be spent for spreading the Krishna consciousness movement, not for sense gratification. There is danger for a preacher when he receives great quantities of money, for as soon as he spends even a single cent of the collection for his personal sense gratification, he becomes a fallen victim. The preachers... That's nice. There's like Sankirtan parties coming from the spiritual world passing by. The preachers of the Krishna consciousness movement should be extremely careful not to misuse the immense quantities of money needed to spread this movement. Let us not make this money the cause of our distress. It should be used for Krishna, and that will cause our eternal happiness. Money is Lakshmi, or the goddess of fortune, the companion of Narayan. Lakshmi must always remain with Narayan, and then there need be no fear of degradation. Om Jnana Timirandasya Jnananjana Shalakaya Chakshurunjalitam Dena Tasmai Shri Gurave Namaha. Jaya Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhara Shivasadi Gaura Bhaktivinoda. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Gaur Premanande, Hare Hare. So we're receiving information from a self-realized soul in this chapter. It's funny, I keep waiting for translation because I just got back from Japan. But I can speak freely now. This is a self-realized soul. So first word is pashyami. You can practically see. So for one who applies the process of devotional service, there's practical realization. Not theoretical, but there's a natural sense of perspective that one gets. Vasudeve Bhagavati Bhakti Yoga Prayojita Janiyat Yashu Vairagyam Jnanam Cha Yadahaitukam. As Sutta Goswami says in the first canto's second chapter of the Srimad Bhagavatam, by rendering devotional service to Krishna, one naturally receives the concomitant benefits called Gyan and Vairagya. Gyan is described by Krishna in the Bhagavad Gita, where he says, Kshetrajnam shapimam vidhi sarva kshetri shubharata. Kshetra kshetrajnayo jnanam yatash jnanam atambama. That the one who sees that he is the observer of the body, he has attained what is called in the 11th canto of the Srimad Bhagavatam by Hamsa Avatar, Shakshitva. He becomes a witness of the body. He doesn't think that he is his body. Naiva kinchit koromiti yukto manyeta tatvavit pashyan shinvan shpasan jigran ashnan gachan shapan shacham pralapan vishayan grinnan unmishan nimishan napi indriyan indriyateshu vartanta iti dharayan. Krishna describes such a person in the Bhagavad Gita where he says naiva, naeva, kinchit. Kinchit means something, and Krishna says never at all does he see at any time that the functions of the body are he himself. Rather, he is witnessing that they're going on as if they are some kind of biomechanical robot. And he's seeing the extension of the hand as levers moving. He feels the pump working in the heart and sees that this is a miraculous creation of Krishna's through the material nature awarded to him as an opportunity to advance in spiritual realization as prescribed in the Vedanta Sutra, Tato Brahma Jignasa. And this is a concomitant benefit of chanting Hare Krishna, performing devotional service, jnana. And vairagya means that there's a sense of perspective that the material world, as the Shastra says, is a separate energy from me. That is, the Vedas say that we have absolutely no connection with the material nature except for our absorption in it. Krishna says in the Gita chapter 2, Jayato Vishayam Pumsam Sangas Te Shupachayate. You only have a connection to the material world because you keep looking at it and thinking that you can control it. Jayato means to contemplate. What am I contemplating? Well, maybe I can add that to my portfolio. That will be mine. And then Krishna says that kind of contemplation of the material energy creates a sangha with it. It means it becomes part of you. And then it becomes your burden to carry. As somebody might drive a car and park it in front of his house, and then later on he hears a smashing sound and thinks, my car was hit. And he starts to perspire, and the heart rate goes up. And he goes to the window and looks, and he sees, no, actually it was my neighbor's car, so no problem. And the only difference is the car's a car, but one's my car and another's somebody else's car. But for a person, pashyami, who's self-realized, such a person sees that actually one body and other body, they're categorically the same. They're all part of the material nature. Asango hyayam purushaha, Vedas say. The soul has no real connection at all. Asango. There's no sangha with the material world. You're only conjuring that kind of sangha because of your contemplation of it, considering that's mine. So this is a self-realized person speaking, therefore, pashyami. I've seen it for myself. I've clearly understood it. And dhaninam. Dhaninam means what is he observing? Of persons who are very rich. So what is very rich? Well, that's also a concoction, because when somebody earns $10 million, they get an anxiety because their neighbor earns $100 million. And the people that earn $100 million are thinking, I can't live on this. I can't even pay for my yacht for this much money. And as is being explained here, the burden of wealth is in the mind, because it's not mine to hold on to anyway. And therefore, there's never a sense in which I feel satisfied when I get it, because you can always add more zeros, and there's always somebody else that has more zeros at the end of their imaginary collection of wealth, if you think about it. At any given time, are you okay right now? Yeah, I'm fine. A little hungry, but I'm not saying I am. I'm just saying somebody might say that, but otherwise I'm okay. It's like, okay, do you feel better if you have $100 million? Well, not really, because then I have to think how to take care of it, and I also have to act like somebody who has that much money, and there are a lot of expectations and worries that go along with it. So the dhaninam means those people who are very rich, but that means that they're identifying with their money. They actually think that I have something, and that's their conception. I'm very rich. So Prabhupada mentioned once he saw a vagabond, person who's wandering, doesn't really have a residence in Howrah Station in Calcutta. And he had some possession. It was a half-burned piece of firewood. And Prabhupada ascertained that person was covetous of that, and felt like, hey, I got more than these other people over here. I have a half-burned piece of firewood. So it doesn't necessarily mean somebody is monetarily rich. Any soul who identifies with whatever possession I have now and thinks I'm better than somebody else, as Kunti says, Jadmaishvara Shuta Shribir Edamana Madapuma Naivar Yavidatum Vai Twama Kinchana Gochara. That the people become burdened, intoxicated by thinking, I have something. And she said that the perfection of spiritual life begins when somebody thinks that I don't have anything. It's a Janmai Shvara, so one may feel rich because of one's birth. People advertise, I'm from such and such a place. I won't say any place because I might offend somebody if I say it. Aishvarya, some kind of opulence. And in fact, everyone's thinking, I look opulent, I hope everyone's looking at me. And then nobody's really looking that much because they're all looking at themselves, thinking like, I got a new pair of sneakers. Check this out. These are expensive. Meanwhile, somebody else driving an expensive car and thinking I'm the object of everybody's appreciation. But that's a great burden, because actually people who are looking at others who don't have a pure heart, they just become envious anyway. And mostly people are looking at themselves and thinking, I hope somebody's looking at me. So there's no end to the klesham, as he says in the next word, miseries that come from this burden of thinking I have something. And Kunti says that only until you become akinchana. Kinchan means something. And akinchana means not something. So meaning is I don't have anything. And this is reality. As Bhaktivinoda Thakur sings in his song, Manasa Deho Geho. Manasa Deho Geho. He's saying like, what do I have? All these things around me that they're come and go. I can't hold on to them. So therefore, right now, I'm just signing everything off. There's a paper you can sign. You can get it after class. And it says, I bequeath everything. I render everything back that I have now to Krishna. It's not mine. I solemnly swear I won't touch anything. I'll only use it in Krishna's service. Then there's no more misery, actually. This is a problem solved. In the Sri Upanishad, first verse, problem's over. The people, everyone in Atlanta, I guarantee you, what's that? Invesco? It's a big building. It's worth millions of dollars. Nobody's happy in that building. Forgive me, Invesco people, if you're watching, but nobody's happy there because they think I have something. But when one comes to this realization that actually everything belongs to Krishna, it's to be used in his service, problem solved. Isha vasyam idam sarvam yat kincha jagatyam jagat tena tyaktena bunjita magridha kasya. So Sri Upanishad says, everything animate or inanimate, let's take an inventory and make sure we count everything. Everything animate or inanimate within the universe is controlled and owned by the Lord. One should therefore accept only those things necessary for oneself, just set aside as one's quota, and one should not accept anything else, knowing well to whom they belong. So once one accepts that, then one becomes wealthy. The wealthiest person is the person who realizes, I don't have anything except myself and my relationship to Krishna. But Bhaktivinoda Thakur then says, okay, I'm giving myself, even myself doesn't belong to me. That belongs to Krishna too. Shukadeva Goswami says at the end of the 14th chapter of the 10th canto, Atmanam Akilatmanam. He says, Krishna is the soul of your soul. In other words, you're part and parcel of him. So this is the essence of Krishna consciousness. Prabhupada explains it in a very simple analogy. A bank teller. Any bank tellers here today? Well, to all the bank tellers of the world, we salute you. Because bank teller works all day long, counting money, other people's money. It gets passed through his or her hands, counting it, putting it in the drawer, and more likely digitally nowadays. Let's just say the bank teller, as a possible scenario, at the end of the day thinks, I counted a lot of money here today. There must have been $3 million that came through my hands. I need $1 for a sarsaparilla, which I'll buy from the machine. Sarsaparilla is root beer. So I'll buy a root beer for $1. I'll just take it off the top of the stack. Is that okay? Only one person said no, 2, 3. Can we get a consensus?
No.
It's not okay. And if the camera catches him, he's fired. He'll never work again anywhere in Atlanta or anywhere else nowadays. So you take $1 off the stack of 3 million and you're fired. And you're considered to be persona non grata because you stole something. It's not yours to keep. You're a bank teller. So this is the conception of one who's beyond this possessiveness which causes the burden and the klesha, the misery. And that is that everything in the universe is paraphernalia to be used in the service of the Lord. Everything in the universe is paraphernalia to be used in the service of the Lord. That's something to get excited about because now you can touch everything. Don't touch anything in this universe until you have that conception. Because anything you touch then sticks to you and you got to work it off for the rest of your life. That's what karma means. You touch it, it's yours, you got to pay for it now. Don't touch anything. In the Bhagavad Gita, Krishna says, Brahmanyadaya karmani sangam tyakva karotiya lipyatena sapapena padma patram ivambasa. He says, live like a lotus. How does a lotus live? Well, you should go find one and sit with it and meditate on a lotus. I've done it. in Osaka, Japan, during the summertime, there's a botanical gardens that has about 50 varieties of lotus flowers, perfectly organized as if everything else is in Japan, so that you can sit there and have a darshan of the lotus flower. Padma, it comes out of the mud. A lotus flower is called Padmaja. Ja means to be born, and Padma means mud. It's born out of mud. It's the most beautiful flower in the world, but it's born out of mud. So Krishna says, well, first let me describe the lotus flower. It grows up out of the mud, and then it lights on the surface of the pond, and water splashes on it regularly. There's no mud on the flower, and there's also no water. Although water touches it, it beads and falls off immediately, so efficiently that one's mind becomes amazed, at least my mind did, and watching how it sloughs off the water, doesn't absorb any of it. And so Krishna gives this example that we can meditate on, how to live in the world but never be besmirched by its foul qualities that come from claiming this is mine and I'll keep this for myself. So he says, Brahmanyadaya karmani sangam tyakva karotiya. So what he says that the person does that is a spiritual technology, he renounces attachment to the result of it. He does the work, but he's signed it over already. He signed that paper. He said that nothing, animate, inanimate, anything in the world doesn't belong to me. It's all for Krishna's service. And therefore, whatever he touches, whether it be millions of dollars or a car or a house or in various kinds of relationships, he's seeing all of these so-called possessions as actual paraphernalia to be used in Krishna's service. And therefore, Krishna says that he's never touched by them, just like the lotus flower is untouched. So for such a person, there's no more klesha. And it's amazing because you can live right in the middle of a big city. You can work in the Invesco building. Wherever you are, you're not touched if internally you've already signed it all over. In fact, people do this already in modern techniques for protecting wealth. For instance, if you have a lot of wealth, you better open up a revocable trust. Because if you simply expose yourself that this is my money, then the government will take most of it. Did you know that? A revocable living trust is necessary. Implement if you have an estate, if you have a house, if you have any money, any assets, you go to an attorney and you open up a revocable living trust. And basically what the trust says is, no individual owns this wealth. It's owned by the trust. And therefore, it's not mine. And people who know the laws have many such devices through which they detach themselves from the wealth. Because if you say, I own this is mine, I'm spending this for me, I'm going on vacation for me, then the government will say, well, you owe us now. But if you do it for your company, you say, no, this is a company trip. I'm on business. I'm serving my company. They won't charge you. It's like, okay, it's a company expense. That's why so many corporate people fly first class. They don't have that much money to pay on first class. Nobody does. But the company's paying for it. So it's like, it's no problem. I flew to Mexico. As soon as we got over the border, it's many years ago before there were more open ways to communicate by phone without paying exorbitant amounts. And he was calling on his phone from Mexico, and I said, how are you doing this? Because it's really expensive once you cross over, at least it was then. And he said, oh, it's company. So when you work for Krishna's company, then everything is written off. It's like, it's not mine, it's Krishna's. I don't own anything. It's not my body, not my car. No more of the mental anguish that comes, I guess all anguish is mental. None of the anguish that comes from saying like, I own this is mine, I control it. One signs it over. You can sign it over. We'll get the papers out after the class. Okay. Lubdanam, who are extremely greedy. So greed is meant to be transferred to Krishna. We can't stop being greedy. But as the great sages say, that I'm going to be greedy for Krishna. That this is recommended. In fact, in the Shastra, it says, Kama dinam katina katita palita durnideshas tesham jatamayi nakaruna natrapa no pashanti utsridaitanata yarupate samprata labdabhuris tamayata sharamam abhayamam nyung shva madasye. The devotee prays like this. He says that, for how long and how many ways have I obeyed the bad masters of my senses? They demanded from me constantly. They never gave me time off, and they never gave me mercy. But I still went on serving them without question. Said, no more, that's it. I'm opting out. He signed the paper. He says, now I'm signing over all my assets to Krishna. That same drive I had for the material world, I'm transferring it over. I'm getting a trust. I'm working under Krishna now. And say, everything I'm doing, that's for Krishna. All my assets, it's already gone. And this is when Yamaraj comes at the end, and it's like, okay, let's go. And it's like, sorry, everything's already signed over. So when you sign everything over, you don't have anything in this world that you claim to be yours, then you're already a free person. And the only person, Krishna says, that he recommends that you give it to is me, he says. Bhoktaram yagatapasam. Sarvaloka maheshwaram suridam sarvabhutaram gyapam mam shantim richati. He said, okay, I can be your holding company for you. You want to sign over all your assets? I'll take them. Bhoktaram yagatapasam. He said, I can take those things and I'll make an annuity for you. You'll give them all to me, and as in the Sri Upanishad verse, whatever's your quota, they'll perfectly provide for you. In fact, devotees, Krishna is known as Vanchatita. It means he fulfills the desire of the devotee beyond what he could ever imagine, in every single way. When I joined the Krishna conscious movement from high school, a lot of my friends came and said, are you crazy? What are you doing? And I said, I don't think I'm crazy. This is fun. And I just noticed over the years, not that I kept close track, but every once in a while things would come up about how my colleagues from high school were doing, and then in college and this and that, in career. My life as a brahmachari was more opulent than, like a CEO. It's like, hey, you're going to India. Okay. Get on the plane, I was around the world several times before they got out of college, what to speak of, living in palatial buildings and with no possessions. And like, here, sit down and eat. Well, it's like, well, this is 20 preparations. How am I going to eat that? You have to eat it. I mean, they're getting their dinner ramen noodles out of the 7-Eleven and, struggling hard to like, where am I going to work after this? And how am I going to protect the money and everything? I was like, money, who needs money? That's the life of a devotee. So this is commonsensical for those who can see for themselves that the material world is a crushing place. But the only reason I'm crushing is because I put my hand in the machine. When you find yourself in a hole, stop digging. If you put your hand in the machine and it gets caught, don't do it. Nishpidyamanam upakarsha vipo prapanam. Prahlad Maharaj says in his prayers, it is a crazy machine. I don't want to get stuck in it. It crushes everything and everybody. So stay out of it. Just be a devotee and give everything to Krishna. I'll just make a few more comments, and then we can have a discussion. So then, I was saying, transferring your sense of industriousness, of possessiveness, we have that. We don't deny it. Because we're alive. We're not dead stones. We actually have ambition. We have this sense of, I want something, I want to belong to something, because we do belong to something. We belong to Krishna. And that's our eternal position. Therefore, to develop greed is not bad. This sounds like Wall Street. The greed is good. And that's what Rupa Goswami says. Krishna Rasa Bhavitomati, Krishna Bhakti Rasa Bhavitomati Kriyatam Yadi Kritopi Labhyate Tatalolyam Api Mulyam Ekalam Janma Koti Sukritirna Labhyate. He says, this is the objective, actually, to develop a sense of intense longing, greediness, actually, is the word used, to serve Krishna. That's okay. And that works. That's where greed works. It works when one becomes so ambitious to increase one's service to Krishna, to satisfy Krishna's senses. And in the concept of deity worship, Prabhupada says, first class. No, he said, beyond first class. He said, it should be first class in every way. And then he said, no, beyond first class. That's greediness. For Krishna's senses, Krishnendriya Priti, it means like, I want to serve Krishna in every possible way. I want to give him everything. That's satisfaction. Because that's what works. Bhoktaram yakatapasam. You give to Krishna and everything works, he says. You'll be peaceful. Everyone in the universe will feel satisfied because you're giving to Krishna. So that principle is universal, it works everywhere. Okay, be greedy, but for Krishna. And then he says, Ajita Atmanam, who are victims of their senses. I think we covered that a little bit. Not enough time to go into it in great detail. Bhayat, because of fear. And fear is the underlying emotion of the material world. Bhayam dvitiya binibeshitasyat ishat apetasya viparyoyo smriti. As mentioned by Kavi Yogendra, that because I divide this stack for me, and that little bit over there, that's for God, then I have cognitive dissonance because I'm thinking, wait a minute, doesn't that all belong to God? And it's like, yeah, but, you know. And that causes a sense of fear because like, oh, what if, you know, I'm exposed? Or what if I lose what I have? What will happen? And the antidote to that is to try surrendering. Why not try? Just try giving it up and see how it feels. And if you don't feel 100% satisfaction, we'll give your money back in the morning. You know, there's a little sense when you give something to Krishna that like, well, how am I going to live? Like, you can give a little donation, and then the mind saying like, give half, give half, give half. And then, you know, so even the half, you know, it's like, it's going to give half of that. And it's like, no, I'm going to give the, you know, the whole half. And then it's like, okay, raise your hands like 500. And the mind's going, what'd you say? Come on. And then it's accepted. It goes on the board. They write it down. And it's like, yeah, he's in. He did it. And then everyone's like, yay. And then all of a sudden you feel like, hey, I'm still alive. I didn't die. My mind said, you're going to die because you gave away what's protecting you in the world. That's what Shukadeva Goswami says early on in the Srimad Bhagavatam, that Deha Patra Kalatradeshu Atma Saini Sasapsati Tesham Pramatu Nidhanam Pashyanapina Pashyati. He says, even though you know darn well nothing's going to save you in the world, Pashyanapina, but you've seen it everywhere, you know it for yourself, still you're holding on to everything, cognitive dissonance. You can't be happy. You're always thinking like, oh, I'll be found out, I'll be vanquished, my thing will be taken away. Sign it off. Shukadeva Goswami said, I did. I'm not even wearing clothes. I don't care anymore. You know, for the material worlds. All for Krishna, none for me. Happiness, complete satisfaction. And anybody can do that. You just have to sign the paper. It's right there. Krishna says at the end of Bhagavad Gita, Sarva Dharman Parityaja. Sign the paper. You can't keep it anyway. Sign it over now. It makes sense. It makes sense monetarily. It makes sense psychologically. It all works. Krishna consciousness is universal. Nothing belongs to you. Don't try to keep it. Sign it over to God. And whatever you call him, just give it to God and serve him, and then you'll be happy. Otherwise, misery. And It doesn't matter. If you keep 1 iota, you take $1 off the stack as the bank teller, it's like the Princess and the Pea. You know the Princess and the Pea? So the princess got estranged from her royal family, and they were trying to get her back. And like, who's the princess? And a lot of people came forward. It's like, I'm the princess. Oh, okay. They couldn't tell because it'd been a few years, it changed features and stuff. So many applicants came. So what they did, they came up with a test. And they put a tiny pea, it must have been chickpea, hard chickpea. They put it on the ground, and then they put 7 mattresses. And they were posturepedic, and they used what is that other one? Special foam? Remember? Yeah, but what's that company called? Huh? Yeah, Tempur-Pedic. They had Tempur-Pedic mattress. They had the Sleep Number. They had all the mattresses from all over the world. And the princess, okay, you take rest here on the royal bed and sleep. And then candidates would come out and they'd say, how did you sleep? And it's like, fine. I was like, she's not the princess. So finally one comes and sleeps. How do you sleep? I tossed and turned all night. There was something hard under there. They say, you're the princess. The idea is the princess's body is so delicate. She can't even tolerate one little pea at the bottom of 7 mattresses, even if they're Tempur-Pedic and Posturepedic and everything else, Sleep Number, whatever else you got. And it can't stand it. And so then they say, you're the princess. So that's us. We're from royalty. We come from the spiritual world. We don't like the material world. This place is terrible. It's uncomfortable. Everywhere you go, you can put 7 mattresses. You could put 7,000 mattresses, and you'll never feel satisfied because you're like, why can't I get comfortable? I have $1 billion. And it's like, because you didn't sign it over. So this advice is so commonsensical, but nobody takes it. Everyone goes on like somehow or other I'm going to make it in the material world. But if you take $1 off the stack, you're a criminal. You'll never enjoy. But if you give everything to Krishna, then you're happy. Om Tat Sat. Hare Krishna. Prabhu, your preaching is world-renowned. And the fact that you're moving from one class to the next, expanding vibration, is exemplary. Thank you very much. Hare Krishna. Okay, we have a couple minutes for reflections or questions to try to expand the conversation. Yes, Mangalarti.
I was remembering a story you had told about fast car chases that happen in the United States. You told us this in Toronto, and then you owe someone some money, and the money's in your pocket, but then when the cops catch you, then you give it over. I'm telling a very bad
That's
version.
2 stories mixed. Yeah, it was a joke I heard years ago about 2 guys walking down the street in some big city. I used to say New York City, but my wife said, why say New York City? Everyone will take offense. So walking down the city, and a gunman, a robber jumps out and says, okay, give me your money. And they both raise their hands, and one of them says to the robber, said, I'll give you everything, but just wait 1 second, okay? And he goes, all right, go ahead. And he pulls out his wallet, and he turns to his friend, and he says, Larry, here's the $20 I owe you. Actually, that's smart, because what I call that is preemptive giving. Because you know it's going to be taken away anyway. You're already at gunpoint, right? But then it's like, give it away before it's taken. Because if you give it to Krishna before it's unceremoniously taken by the material nature, time, karma, Uncle Sanjay who calls up and says, I need to replace my leg, and you're the only member of the family who has money, you pay me, Before that happens, you give it for Krishna. And it's like, I'm sorry, Larry, it's gone. Uncle Sanjay, sorry, no more money. I gave it to Krishna. It's like, you gave it to who? So that was that. And what was the other one, the other story you mixed it with? Oh, yeah, that's about surrender. Because I got fascinated with how interesting it is for people to watch high-speed chases on television. So if the president can be giving State of the Union address, but there's a high-speed chase somewhere in Los Angeles, sorry, we have to cut away. And this guy's driving down the freeway. And everybody knows, you never get away, ever. No one's ever got away in the history of the universe in a high-speed chase. They, it's like he's gone in, like, when's he going to run out of gas? And everyone's thinking, they pop his tires and there's sparks coming out. And then he finally he cuts through all these Indians in a neighborhood and he gets out of the car and he's running now. And then he jumps into somebody's backyard. Now dogs are biting him. And he runs into a wall and he can't get over the wall and sticker bushes. And then the cops come and there's like 50 of them now. And they got their guns and they're not playing around anymore. They're mad. And then finally he goes, okay, I give up. So not like that. Be preemptive. Be smart. Say, like, okay, I understand how this works. Be a hero. Give it up. Give up the ruse. Just stop this nonsense. Just sign it over right now. Stop taking from Krishna and start giving everything back to him, and then you'll be happy. Shantim Richati, Krishna says. What else? 5 minutes left. Yes.
Thank you so much.
Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna. I really like this point that you mentioned, that if you work for Krishna's company, everything is written off. And like how everything can be used in Krishna's, all paraphernalia can be used in Krishna's service. That was really nice. And also another thing that you mentioned, that material world is a crushing place. And the only reason why I feel I'm being crushed is because I'm putting my hand into it. So it's entirely up to us to take up Krishna consciousness and to take up devotional service.
Yes. These are excellent points. Thank you for remembering them. There's an epic lecture given by Srila Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati Thakur on the Vyasa Puja Day. And he's sitting on the Vyasasana and he's saying, so what am I? An animal in the zoo garden, means the zoo, where people come to observe. Big animal sitting above everybody else, taking accolades from everybody. What is this? What kind of arrogance is this? He said, no, but Chaitanya Mahaprabhu has said, take this position to spread my message all over the world. My Guru Maharaj has said, take this burden on your head of accepting the role of the representative of the Supreme. And Lord Chaitanya says, I ordered everybody to do this. Become my representative. Now if somebody comes and says, oh, you're so great, you're so nice, the devotee will not touch that. Won't touch that one molecule of that energy. Passes it to Krishna. Prabhupada said, I have not received any disciples. Same thing Srila Bhaktisiddhanta said. His guru told him two things. He said, don't go to Calcutta, it's the world of Maya. He said, don't take any disciples. Srila Bhaktisiddhanta said, I never went to Calcutta. I was always in Mayapur. I went to Calcutta only for Lord Chaitanya Mahaprabhu's service. I built a temple there as an oasis, as an embassy. I never went to Calcutta. He said, I never took any disciples. They're my masters. I'm here to serve them only. And so, one who assumes a role for Krishna, writes everything over, including whatever comment comes, whatever accolades come, the devotee passes it up. I was with Keshava Bharati. He was the Grasa at the time, Keshava Bharati Swami, an old friend of mine from the early days in Krishna consciousness. And we met Prabhupada in his room in San Francisco in 1974. And when Prabhupada was appreciating the service of the assembled devotees there, we were Sankirtan party, and Keshava Bharati Maharaj said, it is all your mercy, Prabhupada. And Prabhupada slapped the table. I don't have a table to slap without breaking anything, but he slammed it hard, and we all sat up. Keshava Bharati Maharaj thought, I'm finished. And he said, it is not. And then he smiled and he said, it is the mercy of my Guru Maharaj. And he passed it up. Wouldn't touch it. That's the life of a devotee. So that was one. And the other point you made?
We're getting crushed because we're putting our...
Yeah, we're getting crushed. Nishpijamanam upakarsha vibho prapannam. He says, oh my Lord, this material world's a big crushing wheel. So stay out of the wheel, don't put your hand in it. So today we're continuing our book distribution seminar. And I would like to donate $500 to the book fund to help pay for some of the books today. And we're going to take a little break now, and we'll resume the seminar at 9:45. So it's a great honor to be back here after 47 years or whatever it's been. And thank all the devotees who live here. This is such an exalted place. I don't know if I've ever been to such a place where so many elevated devotees live, all in the same area. This place is ready to shoot to the moon and become perhaps the most powerful yatra on earth. So go for it. And thank you very much for your kind attention. Dear Srila Prabhupada, dear Shri Gaurnitai, Shri Jagannath Baladev Subhadra, Shri Radha Madan Mohan, if you so desire, please empower us today in our book distribution yatra, that we may always remember you and have compassion in our heart for those that we meet. And please help remove all obstacles, and please let us do huge. Thank you for considering our request. Everyone who agrees with this prayer in whole or in part, please unmute and say Hare Krishna. Vanchakalpadavishcha, Kripasindhaveva cha, Patitanam Pavanibhyo, Vaishnavebhyo.